The conflict in Gaza has intensified, and French President Emmanuel Macron has taken a firm stance regarding Israel's actions. Macron considers Israel's military operations in Gaza a major mistake that clearly violates international law. He emphasizes that these attacks will not achieve Israel's objectives but will instead result in massive civilian casualties. Thousands of Gaza residents have reportedly been killed or injured, while the Palestinian resistance group Hamas remains resilient. In his press conference, Macron highlighted that military approaches will not resolve the conflict but rather exacerbate the suffering of the Palestinian people. He also stressed his rejection of Israel's plans to construct new settlements or forcibly displace Palestinian residents. According to Macron, these steps only strip Palestinians of their legitimate right to statehood and have no connection to Hamas resistance efforts. Macron underscored that the ongoing military campaign does not weaken Hamas. On the contrary, it results in the deaths of thousands of innocent civilians. The French president criticized Israel's recent parliamentary vote on settlement expansion in the West Bank, noting that these actions are unrelated to security concerns. Instead, they aim solely to seize Palestinian lands and undermine the prospects of a sovereign Palestinian state. Macron concluded that recognizing Palestine and implementing a two-state solution is the most effective way to isolate Hamas. Furthermore, he outlined a comprehensive Franco-Saudi plan, including the formation of a new Palestinian government, rehabilitation of Palestinian authorities, and the launch of concrete commitments to ensure Palestinian political rights are respected. President Macron did not stop at criticizing Israel's military operations. He emphasized the importance of a political solution as the only viable path to resolve the long-standing conflict. Macron explained that recognizing a Palestinian state and implementing a two-state solution are the most effective steps to reduce tensions and isolate Hamas without causing further civilian casualties. According to Macron, Israel's military measures actually strengthen the position of resistance groups and prolong the suffering of Gaza's population. During his statements, Macron also highlighted the recent parliamentary vote in Israel concerning settlement expansion in the West Bank. He stressed that these measures are entirely aimed at seizing Palestinian rights and have nothing to do with security or Hamas. The French president reaffirmed that unilateral aggressive actions undermine peace efforts and violate international law. Macron further underscored France's willingness to collaborate with Saudi Arabia to initiate a comprehensive plan, which includes forming a new Palestinian government, rehabilitating Palestinian authorities, and launching concrete commitments from all parties involved. He emphasized that these measures are crucial to restoring confidence among Palestinians in the political process and creating conditions that allow sustainable peace. Macron also urged the international community to refrain from supporting Israel's unilateral actions, stressing that diplomatic pressure is essential to prevent further escalation. His firm stance has drawn global attention, signaling Europe's position on Gaza while applying diplomatic pressure on Israel to halt actions that have already resulted in a significant humanitarian toll. President Emmanuel Macron highlighted that the Gaza conflict is not just a regional issue but also a matter of human rights and international law. He stressed that Israel's attacks, which have resulted in thousands of civilian casualties, cannot be justified. According to Macron, these actions violate the Geneva Conventions, which protect civilians in armed conflicts. Families have lost homes, schools, and medical facilities, while access to basic necessities such as food, clean water, and medicine has become increasingly scarce. Macron emphasized that the humanitarian impact must be a primary concern for the international community, not merely military or political interests. Furthermore, Macron warned that Israel's military operations would not weaken Hamas. On the contrary, the violence could reinforce solidarity and support for the Palestinian resistance among the population. He stated that violent approaches only prolong the conflict and worsen the conditions of innocent civilians. The French president insisted that peace must be pursued through negotiation and diplomacy, with full support from Arab nations like Saudi Arabia. Macron underlined the necessity of international coordination to ensure the two-state solution is implemented and that the Palestinian people's right to a sovereign state is fully recognized. Macron also cautioned that unilateral support for Israel's aggressive measures, such as the expansion of settlements in the West Bank, would only escalate tensions and create further instability. He called on the international community to resist legitimizing such actions in order to foster sustainable peace in the region. The French president's statements reflect Europe's commitment to political solutions over military action and stress the protection of Palestinian rights as a priority for lasting peace. Beyond highlighting the humanitarian and legal aspects, President Macron stressed that Israel's actions in Gaza could have broader geopolitical consequences. He warned that unilateral military aggression risks destabilizing the Middle East, damaging Israel's relationships with Arab countries, and creating diplomatic pressure on international allies, including the United States. Macron reminded that any measures that disregard Palestinian rights would negatively impact regional peace efforts. Macron emphasized the importance of diplomacy and international cooperation as the primary means to resolve the decades-long conflict. He stated that France will work closely with Saudi Arabia to support the establishment of an effective Palestinian government. Macron stressed that rehabilitating Palestinian authorities and launching concrete commitments from all relevant parties are strategic steps to restore Palestinian confidence in the political process and to create conditions conducive to sustainable peace. Furthermore, Macron insisted that the two-state solution is not merely theoretical but the most realistic way to isolate Hamas without further civilian casualties. Recognition of a Palestinian state and full respect for their sovereignty, he explained, would promote long-term stability in the region. He also urged the international community to refrain from endorsing unilateral Israeli actions, including settlement expansions and forced evictions, emphasizing that a successful political resolution requires genuine commitment, financial and diplomatic support, and technical assistance to legitimate Palestinian authorities. President Macron highlighted that the Gaza conflict is not solely a matter of Israeli security, but also a profound human rights concern. He stressed that the thousands of civilian deaths and injuries caused by Israel's military operations demonstrate that violence cannot bring a solution. According to Macron, any unilateral action that violates international law only prolongs Palestinian suffering and generates further instability in the region. He noted that Israel's military measures do not weaken Hamas. Instead, they strengthen local support for the resistance group. During his press conference, Macron emphasized that a peaceful solution must be prioritized. He urged the formation of a new Palestinian government, the rehabilitation of Palestinian authorities, and the implementation of concrete commitments to ensure Palestinian political rights are respected. The French president stressed that the two-state solution represents the most realistic path to isolating Hamas without causing additional civilian casualties. Coordination with international partners, particularly Saudi Arabia, is essential to make this strategy effective. Macron also strongly criticized Israel's recent approval of settlement expansion in the West Bank. He made clear that these actions are unrelated to security concerns and serve only to strip Palestinians of their legitimate rights. He called on the international community to reject legitimacy for settlements and forced evictions to foster an environment conducive to lasting peace. Through diplomatic and political measures, Macron hopes to halt the prolonged conflict in Gaza, reduce civilian casualties, and ensure that Palestinians can exercise the rights they are entitled to under international law. President Macron stressed that military approaches will not resolve the Gaza conflict. He pointed out that Israel's attacks have resulted in thousands of civilian casualties, including children and the elderly, without weakening Hamas. Macron considers this strategy counterproductive, as it strengthens solidarity among Palestinians and deepens resentment toward Israel. In his view, the only viable path forward is diplomacy involving all relevant parties, including Arab nations and the international community. Macron emphasized the need for coordination between France and Saudi Arabia to ensure the establishment of an effective Palestinian government. Rehabilitating Palestinian authorities and launching concrete commitments from stakeholders will provide Palestinians with their legitimate political rights and sovereignty. According to Macron, these steps not only help isolate Hamas but also open the door to long-term stability in the Middle East. Furthermore, Macron highlighted that recognizing a Palestinian state and implementing a two-state solution are crucial strategies for achieving lasting peace. He stressed that the international community must unite in refraining from supporting Israel's unilateral actions, including settlement construction and forced evictions. Macron concluded that the future of peace in Gaza depends on the global willingness to uphold international law, protect Palestinian rights, and prevent further civilian suffering. Through firm diplomatic engagement, he believes a more stable and secure environment can be established for all parties involved. Macron emphasized that international support for the Palestinian people must go beyond words and be translated into concrete actions. He highlighted that Israel's military operations, which have caused thousands of civilian casualties, demonstrate a failure of strategy that should have been directed toward peaceful resolution. According to the French president, unilateral violence not only violates international law but also worsens the humanitarian conditions in Gaza, limiting access to food, clean water, and medical supplies. Furthermore, Macron stressed that a political solution is the only realistic path to ending the prolonged conflict. He reiterated the importance of recognizing a Palestinian state and implementing a two-state solution as a strategic move to achieve sustainable peace. Macron explained that rehabilitating Palestinian authorities and forming a new government would enable Palestinians to exercise their legitimate political rights, while isolating Hamas without additional civilian casualties. President Macron also urged the international community to refrain from legitimizing Israel's unilateral measures, including settlement expansions in the West Bank. He highlighted that any support for aggressive actions would only extend the conflict and deepen instability in the region. Through firm yet fair diplomacy, Macron hopes the international community can pressure Israel to halt violence, open the door to peace negotiations, and ensure that Palestinian rights are fully respected. His approach reflects a commitment to prioritizing human rights and international law while seeking a sustainable resolution to one of the most enduring conflicts in modern history. President Macron stressed that the Gaza conflict is not merely a military struggle, but a test for the international community in upholding human rights and international law. He highlighted that Israel's ongoing military operations, which have resulted in thousands of civilian deaths, demonstrate that violence cannot weaken Hamas but instead strengthens Palestinian solidarity with the resistance. Therefore, political solutions and diplomacy must take precedence over military action. Macron emphasized the importance of cooperation between France and Saudi Arabia to ensure the formation of a legitimate and effective Palestinian government. Rehabilitating Palestinian authorities and implementing concrete commitments from all parties are considered strategic steps to provide Palestinians with their rightful political and sovereign rights. He noted that these measures not only isolate Hamas but also pave the way for long-term stability in the Middle East. Furthermore, Macron underscored that the international community must unite in rejecting Israel's unilateral actions, including settlement construction and the forced eviction of Palestinian residents. Only through coordinated diplomacy, strong international engagement, and tangible support for the Palestinian people can lasting peace be achieved. Macron concluded that the world has a moral responsibility to uphold Palestinian rights and to prevent further escalation, ensuring that future generations in Gaza can live without fear, violence, or insecurity. His firm diplomatic stance reflects France's commitment to protecting human rights and pursuing a peaceful resolution to one of the most challenging conflicts in modern history.